So this is my drawing that I had worked on in pencil, and now I want to go through and I want to begin to color it in, and I'm going to be using those Prismacolors to do this. I'm going to do similarly as I did in the pencil drawing part. I'm going to start in the back and work my way forward. When I start with Prismacolors, just like I do with painting, I'm going to start with my lightest colors first and work my darker colors into it. So if I'm looking at that bamboo, my lightest color that I'm going to see in a lot of those different spaces is going to be that yellow color, and I'm going to go through and I push, I would say medium firm when I'm going through and adding those colors in. I don't want to push too firm yet because I know I want to blend some other colors into it. So I want to leave a little bit of mixing space on the paper. If I get to a portion where it's something that I've definitely decided is going to stay yellow, then I could push those areas a lot more firmly because I don't want to let another color blend into there. When you're blending, you also want to find a smooth surface. My table's rough, so I have several sheets of paper underneath this sheet of paper while I'm working through and coloring it. So you'll want to make sure that you do that as well. If you have any lighter areas that you know you're going to add white into, you want to be really gentle with those spaces when coloring those in as well. I'm not going to make you watch this in live time. I'm going to speed it up for you, but I just wanted to give you kind of a general idea of how to go through and start those lighter spaces that you see in there. Remember, you might have some bright white reflections, so you can leave those spaces white. But otherwise, when you're looking at most of what you're coloring in, it's not a super white reflection. It's just a lighter color of what's already there. So we're going to be blending several colors together for this particular project. So I'm going to get up here to where I want to start doing a little more pressure. And my table was sort of bumping through my paper, so I put some more papers underneath. And when I start blending, I'm going to push hard and then go lighter for this particular area. I also do a little bit of scrumbling, which means I'm going in little tiny circles on my pencil to help it get that more blended look to it. So as things move out of the light and go back into the shadows, they're going to be a little bit darker. So I can even go back in with my next darkest color. I know there's a nice solid shadow underneath that little kink in the bamboo there. I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna do that little circular mode, and you'll notice you can hold your pencil like that, or you can go in and you can hold it sideways to get a little bit broader coloring space or coloring surface area. But I'm going to work it back in to the green that I already have on here. And you're going to go back and forth, adding a little bit more each time because you can't take back up. Once you put this down, it doesn't like to come back up off your paper. So I'm just going through and adding a little bit at a time. And this is where a higher level drawing class is going to take you a little longer for each project because you want to be more careful and cautious as you go through and you work on those layers. And it's going to be a lot of working back and forth. You might go back and forth between some of your colors a couple of times. So I tend to keep them out and just here off to the side when I'm not using them. My darkest part, according to my picture, is right up under here. And then it has a little bit more shadow that comes back around down towards the bottom. Again, still using that circling motion. You don't have to. If you prefer to use a straighter edge to it, you can. I'm going to work back up into the yellow a little bit more because there's not quite that much yellow that shows, but it is lighter overall in this area. So that yellow helps retain some of that lighter color in that bamboo area. And you can do this with the pencils, you can do this with the sticks. Both of them work the same. One just has the wood wrapped around it and one of them does not. So that would be one area that I would go through and do. Now I'm going to do something similar in all of these other portions to make sure that it has that nice dark space someplace. And it has that nice reflective place someplace to keep that roundness and depth going. So this particular flower has a white outline, and I want to make sure it stays nice and white. So I'm going to go through with my white Prismacolor first, and I'm going to push really firm all around that white outside edge, and that'll make it much more difficult for me to color on top of it later when I need to go in and add in those pinks and violets that go into this particular flower. I can't quite see what I'm doing. If you have a lot of light, you might be able to see a little bit of reflection of the wax off of the Prismacolor while you're working on this. So I just have to be really careful to remember where I have already colored and where I need to go when I'm working with these. And it has a nice soft in the background texture to it. So I'm going to add a little bit lighter white back there. There's a lot of stripes in this particular flower if you're looking at it. I'm not going to be able to get all of those teeny tiny details in on this project because we're not taking the time to do that. If you were going to do that, that would be a week-long project to get things in there that tight and that specific. I don't want you to be quite that tight. We're being more on the blends in this one where we're blending our colors and overlaying on top of one another as we go through and work on things. So we're going to keep that same tone and texture down here while we work on this flower. So you'll notice when I'm coloring over my lines that I have streaked in here, I'm being very careful when I do that to go the same direction as those lines. And it does lighten them up. You are adding white to it. This isn't a clear stick. You can sometimes buy clear pencils to help blend and keep the same colors, but this will lighten it up and pastel those areas out. But whites do help to blend rather nicely if you're looking for a much smoother look. So this still gives me the overall look of these flowers. It just doesn't have the super high level of detail in the veins in here like it does in our original image, but it still works. Now, I have a lot of white space in my background, so I'm going to work on filling that in to wrap up this image.